The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
And we are live to tape here on the W2M Network. This is your 205 Live Review. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Good evening / afternoon, depending when you're listening, everybody. And I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Liz Pugliese. Liz, good evening once again.
Hello again.
It feels like we just did this.
Oh.
I'm getting a sense of deja vu all over again. Anyway.
Medication.
And as previously mentioned, you can find us here with the W2M Network online at www.w2mnet.com if you are a fan of, well, besides wrestling, because obviously you're a fan of wrestling if you're listening to this, but football, video games, soccer, and all kinds of other things in the world of sports and entertainment. You can find discussion about it over on w2mnet.com. In addition, we are also being brought to you by 411mania.com, so we want to thank Larry and Ashish for doing that as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And what do you say we get into this week's 205 Live Review, Liz?
Let's do it.
So Kalisto's the new Cruiserweight Champion.
Yay.
Yeah, frickin' who?
So, I wouldn't mind it so much is that I don't really think it needed to be dedicated to Eddie just because it was on the anniversary of either his birth or his death. I really don't remember which one, so I'm a horrible fan. I don't know. To me, it cheapened it. It's
birthday.
Like, birthday. Okay, forgive me. Did you give it to the Hispanic man because it's Eddie's birthday?
If you believe the report that came out on 411 after the show, yes, they did.
I don't know how much I believe of anything I ever hear really online, but it just comes, whether you believe it or not, whether you believe any report you read or see online, it just seemed that way.
Well, the problem to me, too, is the fact that, all right, and Sean and I kind of got into an argument about this yesterday. It seems like I'm mentioning Ray, I'm mentioning Eddie, cheer for me, damn it!
Mm-hmm. Another way to get a cheap pop.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of saying the name of the city you're in. Mention Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. Pop. Woohoo!
I am the opposite. I wasn't a big fan of Rey's, ever. I wasn't. I can't apologize for it. Just wasn't somebody I could ever get behind. Eddie, I loved Eddie. So
I loved Eddie. I liked Ray. I loved Eddie. I liked Ray, but at the same time, I'm just sick and tired of people of that heritage constantly bringing up those names. Get over on your own accord. Kalisto is an amazing worker. He is just a god-awful promo.
I agree. I mean, I would have. You've seen in times in the past. Somebody out of the blue comes in, wins a title of somebody, and they very rarely ever have an, issue with it. I don't mind Kalisto winning. Like, my opinion matters so much, really. But it's just that, for me, it's so cheapened by I did this for Eddie. If Eddie had died, 3 months ago, okay. That's fine. I get it.
See, I disagree with that, and the reason I say that is because Rey Mysterio's Rumble winning title win in 2006 pissed me off for that very reason.
But, for me, it would still annoy me. I understand what you're saying, but at least it would be slightly more relevant. It's still kind of fresh. 3 months out, people, family, friends, diehard fans, they're still mourning. We still mourn years later, but, adjusting to it, whatever you want to call it. Back then, 3 months out, whatever, it has a bit more, relevance. Now it's cheap hot. For me, it doesn't matter what your background is. There's others who have said, oh, I'm such a big fan of this one. I'm doing it for this one. I don't care. I really don't care. To me, it just, it deadens it. It means, for me, you're going to lose my interest very quickly.
Well, tonight on 205 Live, Kalisto came out basically spewing the same nonsense that he did last night about dedicating this win to Eddie, with it being Eddie's birthday yesterday. By the way, November 11th was the death date, just as a heads up. But so he was talking about the fact that it was Eddie's birthday yesterday, and that for him to win the title on Eddie's birthday meant so much to him, and that he promises to bring honor and respect back to the title, unlike its former title holder, Enzo Amore. Enzo proceeds to interrupt here, flanked by Arya Daivari, because Enzo has supporters now after everybody hated him 2 weeks ago, reasons. And they end up getting into an argument with each other. Kalisto actually kind of holds his own on the microphone against Enzo here, which I thought was nice for a change, because he didn't have to rely on anything here. And he calls Enzo out on his hypocrisy, saying that he didn't do anything that Enzo himself wouldn't have done, taking advantage of a situation, much the same way that Enzo won the title from King Neville by kicking him square in the cojones. So eventually, Enzo and Arya Daivari attempt to attack and double team Kalisto. This works until Mufasa, who is the king apparently, whereas Kalisto can't wait to be. I'm screwing up my Enzo references here. He talks way too much and way too fast. Mustafa Ali, yeah, that one was entirely accidental.
I'm going to be singing that song all night in my head now. And I'm going to beat you for it.
Mustafa Ali makes the save, and that sets up the Teddy Long special for later in the show. As we come back from a commercial break to reveal that Kurt Angle has made that match for later on in the show. We'll talk about that match when we get to it. Rich Swann in the ring cutting a promo lets TJ Perkins know that their upcoming match, scheduled for 2 out of 3 falls instead of one fall, comes at a cost. The cost being their friendship. There'll be no more handshakes, there'll be no more hugs, and there'll be no more friendship. Which means Rich Swann really needs to talk to Paul from Big Brother.
That's a good match. I don't watch Big Brother, so the reference went.
I was expecting a Big Brother pop there. Obviously, I don't know my target demographic as much as I thought I did. All right, moving on. Rich Swann and TJ Perkins, 2 out of 3 falls. Your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I missed the fact at first that it was 2 out of 3 falls, because my network was glitching for some reason. So I had seen the pin, and I'm like, well, why is this still going on? But then, they had said it. I enjoyed it. I think it may have went on a minute or two, a little too long for my tastes. But I enjoyed it. I thought they told the story. I give it a, I like both of them, actually. So I thought it was a decent match.
Were you surprised it ended 2-0?
Wait, I couldn't hear you, Harry. I'm sorry. You broke up.
Yeah, I caught the case of the hiccups. Were you surprised it ended 2-0?
Yes, but I also liked it. I mean, it becomes
almost cliche for 2 out of 3 falls matches to go the full 3 falls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I liked how they changed it up. I think it made Swann look really good.
Well, and not to mention, I feel like Rich Swann is going to be somebody that they're positioning to push back up the level of the Cruiserweight division here now that the no contact thing with Enzo has been broken by somebody else winning the title. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Swann eventually have a date with Enzo once Enzo gets the belt back, probably at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs on the 22nd. All right, so backstage we go, and Enzo and Arya are having another conversation with Enzo, once again talking more smack, when they are interrupted by Drew Gulak, of all people. Gulak has actually stated that he somewhat sympathizes with the plight of Enzo Amore, so apparently Enzo's getting himself a little squad together in order to go after the Cruiserweight division in totality.
I would like to see Gulak and Enzo on the same side. I think Gulak's look and personality will balance, Enzo pretty nicely.
The flash and sizzle that is Enzo, whereas you would have the steak of Gulak. I could see that. All right, so Akira Tozawa is making his way to the ring for his next contest. Who his opponent is, we never find out, because Drew proceeds to beat his ass in the entranceway, including, excuse me, including hitting Tozawa in the throat with his no chance sign. Unnecessary. How's a man supposed to if he's getting hit in the throat?
Probably why he did it, to make him stop.
Yes, and that's the exact point that Nigel McGuinness raises on commentary too. So,
I like Gulak. I think he and I think it'll be Tozawa. You know, I think they'd be pretty good together. I want to see him do a PowerPoint presentation on him.
Hey, Paul, are you still with us? Paul. Paging producer Paul Leeser.
I'm here. I just have a mouthful of cookie. I'm trying to finish it before I open my mouth.
Unintentional comedy. Awesome. We come back with our next segment being Cedric Alexander talking about his feud with Jack Gallagher and...
Still not done. The goddamn professional.
Brian Kendrick. Thank you very much. Literally, that was the only reason I brought him on, was for the goddamn professional. That is a running joke here on 205 Live. Anyway, Alexander actually cuts a very good promo by his standards, in my opinion, here, talking about the fact that plotting and scheming is exactly what Kendrick and Gallagher do, but while they're going to be licking their wounds and coming up with the next plot to take down Cedric Alexander, Alexander will be ready to thwart that one as well. What were your thoughts on Cedric Alexander's promo here, Liz?
I thought it was really good. I haven't really heard him speak a lot, but I had kind of, I'll be honest with you, I was a little tired, so I was fading out, but it brought me back into it. I like Cedric, so I enjoyed hearing his promo, and it actually got me interested in the next, in the match. I was a little tired, but he did his job. He brought me back into it.
A little surprised not to see Kendrick or Gallagher at 205 Live tonight. I thought that it was odd that Alexander only had the backstage promo, but at the same time, like I said, I thought that Alexander did an excellent job with his promo there, and it definitely has me more interested to see where they're going to go down the road, and if Alexander's going to bring in anybody to help him thwart the attacks here. The obvious thought to me to thwart the attacks of Kendrick and Gallagher would be Rich Swann, since Alexander and Swann have developed something of a friendship over the course of 205 Live as well.
Would make sense.
You'd have to think that Swann's ready to move on from TJ Perkins, having just beaten him 2-0 in that best out of the 3 falls match earlier tonight.
But will TJ still keep going after him? Or do you think they're going to come up with something new? I mean, there's really not that many of them, and then we see them, do something on Raw, and then we get an hour with them. So I can understand why there wasn't a match. You have to build up to something. You can't squeeze. If you squeeze everybody in, then...
Well, I think the thing with that is the fact that since they had the 2 out of 3 falls match end 2-0, that seemed to me like that should be closure on the Rich Swann TJ Perkins thing.
No, I agree. But where does that leave TJ? Who does he...
That's a very good question, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that immediately comes to mind for TJ Perkins. I mean, my belief would be maybe King Neville, assuming the Neville leaving rumors are not accurate.
I can't see Neville leaving, but I'd say that about everybody, so I would be shocked if he was actually leaving.
See, I could understand him being upset about the situation here, but I don't think this is something that he would leave over. At least I would hope, because Neville is somebody who I thoroughly enjoy, and I think that they have bigger, better plans for him than being on 205 Live.
Yeah, I can definitely see Neville being moved over to one of the main shows. Which one? I don't know. But I don't think. I'm sorry. I don't think he would leave over that. I mean, wrestling, like I say, is goes in circles. So his time, I think, would definitely come again.
I would think that Neville would end up on Raw in the Intercontinental title division. Me and Paul have actually talked about this when I hosted the show with Paul when Sean was sick that week, and we talked about the fact that we could totally see Neville as the challenger for Miz's IC title.
Oh, I would love that.
There are a lot of people who want more for Neville. Whether or not they see more for Neville is the question. And if they don't see more for Neville, that could explain the actions of the last couple of days here with the rumors of Neville asking for his release.
I would think that there would have to be more to it than just that. I mean, Neville really didn't lose that long ago, So
Great Balls. The No Mercy pay-per-view.
Right, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long ago that he was, the 205 champ, the Cruiserweight champ, rather, excuse me. So I don't think he's like, oh, it's been, however long it's been, and nothing's ever going to happen, unless they told him, oh, hey, we need you to, take a break or blah, 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 we're going to repackage you somehow. Maybe sure, then he got frustrated, but in the grand scheme of things, it really has not been that long where I could see somebody saying, well, this is, ridiculous. He would really sound like a real diva at that point. In the grand scheme of things, it has not been that long. So I think, yeah.
And I agree with that. The fact is that he just lost the title to Enzo at No Mercy. What I think it might be is the fact that maybe he feels like the Cruiserweight division is forgetting about him, and that makes him upset because it kind of insults his ego with the fact that Neville's carried the Cruiserweight division since January, and now they're moving on from him, and they don't really have anything else planned for Neville. And I can understand him being upset about that. Whether or not that's the case, this is all purely speculation. So,
or he has a crazy idea that's happened before. Somebody actually just wants to take some time off, maybe go home and see their family, and it was approved, and they're not going to be around for a little bit, so everybody thinks they're leaving. We'll see. It happened a few times with Barrett. He had visa issues a few times, and he was in England. Eventually, obviously he did, but long before any of that, it was, he left. He asked for his release. There was a, big fight. We don't know. Maybe he did. We'll find out.
Well, I'd like to talk about Barrett, but I'm afraid I have some bad news.
Well, I was just using it as an example, of how people blow everything out of proportion.
Main event time as Kalisto and Mustafa Ali take on the team of Enzo Amore and Arya Daivari. We end up seeing Kalisto pin Arya Daivari center ring with Salida Del Sol to once again stand tall for the second time in as many nights here. I get what they're trying to do with Kalisto, and they've been looking for their next Hispanic superstar for years now, especially after the Alberto Del Rio thing didn't pan out the way that they had planned it. Some of that falls on Del Rio, some of that falls on management, some of that falls on staff backstage mouthing off about things they shouldn't mouth off about. But regardless, Del Rio didn't work out the way that they had planned it to. They're still looking for that next breakthrough Hispanic superstar like they had with Ray, like they had with Eddie, and they feel like Kalisto could be that guy. And while I agree in the ring Kalisto could be that guy, outside of the ring, as far as promo abilities and stuff, he's just not. He doesn't connect to a crowd the way that Eddie and Ray did.
I love watching him in the ring. I always have. And, he definitely needs some work with, his promo skills. And I've always wondered, is it just practice? Or, do they work with somebody? What is going to make them better? Maybe some people will get better over time. Maybe they won't. I mean, it's happened, but I don't know. You're right. There's no connecting.
Well, I think the question becomes is how much of that does the scripting that they do, and possibly the excessive scripting that they do, hamper or hinder talent as far as being able to develop their own personalities here. I mean, we talked about this on the Raw review last night, that Kalisto's been pretty much talking about how Ray and Eddie were his idols ever since he came into the WWE. It's not something that he should have been saddled with.
I know. I wanted to bring that up earlier. How much of him saying this is because it's his idea, and how much of it is, let's get you connected with all these other fans because all the people that loved Eddie and Ray, will get behind you now.
Or that's the hope anyways, without realizing that it's going to turn off just as many fans who are sick of such character-related blasphemy. I'm going to make a bold statement here, and I don't care if anybody disagrees with me. This is my honest opinion of this. Kalisto is at least as good of a worker as Rey Mysterio Jr. was.
Oh, I agree.
He is just not on a personality level where he connects with the fans like Ray did. Ray had that connection with the kids in the audience. Ray had that connection with the people that watched him in WCW. They knew who Ray was. Kalisto's just this flash-in-the-pan guy that came in from the indies as Samurai Del Sol and then got turned into Kalisto by the WWE's marketing machine.
Right.
He was part of the tag team, the Lucha Dragons, and then he became a single when Sin Cara decided to split them up in the brand split here. The point being that Kalisto doesn't have this background that they can build off of, so they try to pigeonhole him into this thing with Eddie and Ray without allowing him to develop his own personality. And frankly, I think it's doing just as much to hinder him as it is to help him.
I absolutely agree. Just because he's Hispanic doesn't mean, he's them, obviously. It just does nothing, for me. I just, I roll my eyes. But he doesn't, like we said, connect. And I think actually, to go into Enzo for a second, that's one of the reasons he, as many people feel not correctly so, in the position he is. Enzo's good on the mic. We can all agree with that. I kind of think he's falling into my Uso territory where he's saying the same thing over and over, using the same lines over and over, more so than necessary. But if you follow, and I know you're not on social media, if you follow him on social media, he interacts with the fans a lot, especially the kids. He's always out there in the outside the arenas or when fans stop him. He's always Snapchatting and this and the other thing. Where he is. He's always interacting with the younger kids. So that's going to translate with the parents who watch too, because they're going to buy the kids, his merchandise. So, is it exposing them also to more on the outside to the fans, having them interact somehow, having them do, some type of media or event to have them, connect with fans that way? There's more than one way to do it.
I feel like that wouldn't be the worst idea with Kalisto, to get him in front of the younger fan base and market him more towards that kid fan base here, because a lot of these kids that they're trying to advertise these luchador masks to, like the Kalisto mask to, a lot of the kids that they're going to try to advertise these masks to, they're not going to know who Rey Mysterio Jr. is.
And they do a lot of stuff, especially when they come to New York and different areas. They have the whole, I don't know if they still do it, I'm sorry, the Be a Star. I know they do the reading programs. They go to the inner city schools. Okay, send the guy that legitimately speaks Spanish. Because when they're here in New York and you go to the schools, a lot of our young students are Hispanic. They speak the language at home. Send the person that they're going to connect to the most. It'll translate over on TV. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like there are other things that they could be doing with Kalisto in order to try to get him to connect to the younger fan base, or even to the older fan base, rather than having him constantly play the Ray and Eddie card. And as I mentioned earlier, and as we talked about in the wrestling chat on Facebook with the W2M group on Facebook, our own personal wrestling staff chat there, getting really sick and tired of them force-feeding Kalisto these lines, or if he's doing it on his own, he really needs to stop and develop his own personality.
Agreed.
Like I said, the guy in the ring is money. The guy in the ring can do no wrong, in my opinion. I love watching him wrestle. And that no handspring back kick that he does is one of the most gorgeous moves in professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
I get nervous every time he does it because I'm worried he's going to Hayabusa himself. But at the same time, it is just so beautiful to see him do it.
It looks flawless.
And then that low distance Rana / Spike Rana driver that he does as well is also very pretty as a follow up too. I mean, he's got the moveset, he has the ability, he has the opportunity to be something flashy in the ring. Don't pigeonhole him by what you think he should be. Let him be who he is.
Well, yeah, let him grow. Let him grow.
All right, so that's going to put a bow on this one, Liz. Scale of 1 to 10, what do you got?
7.5.
Okay.
I enjoy, out of the 3 shows, Raw put me to sleep. I fell asleep during it. I could not even tell you what happened on half of it. I didn't even bother to read a review. Apologies to anyone.
Well, that's okay, because you can listen to my review. You can listen to my review with Gary here on the W2M.
I'll listen to yours and Gary's. If you ask me what happened with the Shield, I can tell you everything. Anything else, forget about it. Total fangirl moment. No, it's true. I'm not going to lie. Out of the three shows, I enjoyed 205 the most because of again, like I said last week, the amount of wrestling. The backstage, I thought all the interview stuff was very good, and I enjoyed the matches.
I think 205 Live has the advantage of only having an hour runtime, so it has less to pack into the time frame that it gets to, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
I'm going to go a little bit later than you are because I thought SmackDown was better than 205 Live this week, so I'm going to go with a 7. But at the same time, both were significantly better than Raw this week, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
The Kalisto, like I said, the Kalisto stuff annoys me. It embarrasses me. It almost enrages me to a point. And I use some very choice wording inside of the wrestling staff set. I'm sure you saw it. But all in all, the guy's an amazing worker, and if you want to have the belt on somebody that can work the style of the cruiserweights, there are a few better options than Kalisto, in my opinion.
I think he's the perfect one to put it on.
Enzo Amore is doing exactly what Enzo is saying he's doing for 205 Live. People may like Enzo, people may hate Enzo, but people are watching because of Enzo.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And some of it goes back to what I said earlier. He connects, with the fans, not just on the TV, but outside of it. I think he kind of, to a degree, lives his character. There's hundreds of videos out there of him doing his crazy little dance with the kids, So it translates over. They're going to watch it, and it's going to make the parents watch it. Or, my nephew used to watch it with me, My nephew was into him. I would pay more attention to it because I, want to connect with my nephew. So it all works out.
And not to mention, I think you also had the benefit of 205 Live having the best match of the three shows this week on television in Rich Swann versus TJ Perkins.
Definitely.
So all considered, I don't have any real complaints about 205 Live as far as the overall in-ring product goes. I wish more people would watch it and give it a chance because the shows are actually very entertaining. Unfortunately, there's also this preconceived notion when it comes to the cruiserweights that they're not able to work to the level or they're not able to entertain to the level that the main rosters do. And it's a crock. These shows are on a weekly basis, these shows are just as good as anything most of the main roster is putting out.
No, definitely. Like I said, at the time I've been watching it, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't been watching it since it started. I was more familiar with them for what they were doing on, Raw, and I would catch, clips here and there. It's definitely, as far as wrestling goes, 9 times out of 10, the best of the three shows. Before you finish, let me ask you a quick question. Do you think it also suffers because you have to switch over to the network after SmackDown? Do you think it would be better if it was taped for the network and then shown at a specific time? Because now you get into 10 o'clock, a lot of the kids are going to sleep, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. And this is a conversation we've had on this show many times before in regards to the placement of 205 Live. I think they would be better served putting 205 Live down at Full Sail. And when they do 205 Live, they do. You could do NXT down at Full Sail as well, and then you can air them in a 2-hour block on Wednesdays. Have them go from 8 to 10 on Wednesday nights. Have NXT stay at its 8 p.m. Tuesday night time slot, and have 205 Live air at 9 p.m. on Wednesday nights. Excuse me.
See, that sounds perfect to me.
Because people are already going to be on the network to watch NXT anyways. If they're watching NXT, the odds are they'll probably stick around to watch 205 Live. The crossovers between the two brands have happened constantly. You always see people from the Cruiserweight division on NXT television, especially after the Cruiserweight Classic ended. And there are people that are on NXT as well that would fit right into the Cruiserweight division should they decide to go that direction with them.
Makes sense. I think it loses because I don't think 205 has. That sounds stupid. I don't think it has the younger fan base. I think the older fans, our age, a little bit younger, are watching it, whereas not the younger kids, the elementary school kids, the middle school kids, even the high school fans, because they got to be up the next day to go to school.
Yeah, especially not at 10 p.m. on the East Coast.
Right.
All right, I do believe that's going to do it for us, Liz. Anything you want to plug before we get on out of here?
No. I have nothing.
All right, well, we'll have to find you something to plug. But what I will plug is tomorrow night here on the W2M Network, myself, Brandon Bizkabing, and Stephen III bring you the kickoff, Week 6, as we cover all things related to what's going on in the worlds of the NCAA's college football as well as the National Football League. That is the kickoff here on the W2M Network. In addition, myself and Patrick Ketzel will be back at you this Sunday night as we take another trip across the pond to cover Revolution Pro Angle versus Sabre, as the main event is exactly what the title says it is. In one of his final independent wrestling matches, Kurt Angle takes on the Wonder Kid, Zack Sabre Jr. That is this Sunday night on Wrestling Unwrapped. So, for our producer, the goddamn professional, Paul Leeser, and my new co-hostess with the mostest, Liz Pugliese, I'm Harry Broadhurst. You have been listening to the 205 Live Review here on the W2M Network, available online at W2Mnet.com, and also available on 411mania.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next Tuesday night.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.